Welcome back to Everyday Lessons in the Bible. Today I was in Isaiah 58 and 59. And this one starts out about how people appear to be Christians. I mean, they didn't call them Christians back then, but how this relates to us today is it's people that appear to be a Christian. They go to church, they maybe are a good person. Maybe they talk a good talk, they talk about God, but their heart is far from that. And it's given this example in here about how these people, they would fast and appear spiritual, but they're really manipulating God, even though you can't manipulate God. But they thought that they were. They thought that if they fasted and they did all these things spiritually, that they would appear like godly people. And so that's what I think about with people today. People, they go to church, they maybe go to small groups, they worship, but they really aren't, their heart's not bent towards the Lord. And your life is still full of sin and in bondage to sin. And people, they are fasting for the wrong reason. And people do that today. Fasting is good for you, not only physically, but spiritually. It connects your heart back towards the Lord. And, but for them, they would fast and not do it for the right reasons. It's kind of like how you just obey the Lord because you're supposed to obey the Lord, but it's not because your heart is bent towards the Lord. So it's the same thing. It's where is your heart? That's what God's always wanting to know, is where is your heart? Is your heart towards the Lord or for, to have the image of that? And so the whole purpose is to loosen the bondage and release the yoke from your life when you fast. And it does that in many different ways, spiritually, physically, mentally, just so many different ways. And it allows you to fully be set free, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to teach, preach, show, guide, be the light in people's worlds. And justice brings forth the new light, which is the light of Jesus, right? And God restores favor and blessing when you return to Him. And so, God has your back. That's what I love. Let your light shine because God has your back. God's glory covers us from our past and protects us today and forever. And so then this next part, it kind of goes into ministry. And it says, commit to banish every form of oppression in our lives, in our churches, in our society. Remove the criticism. Forbid malicious slander. Have compassion for the poor. So these are just giving you some guidelines. Comfort those that are enduring suffering and tragedy. So these are just areas that you should focus on in ministry to help other people. And when you do this, God will multiply blessings. He will give you spiritual influence, and that will increase. The discouragement and the gloom will leave your life, and it will leave other people's lives because of what you're doing in and through them and what God is doing in and through you. And God will guide you. He will renew the grace on your life. He will, your spiritual life will flourish. Who doesn't want that, right? And you will have ever flowing source and blessing to others. So in other words, the resources that God has will flow from you to other people, and the blessings will flow to other people from you. And because of God's grace, He will rebuild your life and the things that you have lost. And He will rebuild the communities, the cities, the nations that surround you because of your work and your ministry of doing the things that God has called you to. And then your testimony of healing will help restore not only your life, but other people's lives. And I just think that's really cool because, we lose things in our lives because of our own selves and because of what other people do and because of the enemy. And so God is saying, come back to him. Let him restore to you all that you have lost. Allow him to rebuild your life. Move into the ministry of what God has called you to so that he can work in you and through you for other people and to help other people. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. The Lord will exalt you for keeping the Sabbath holy. So that is honoring the Sabbath and keeping it holy, focused on him and resting in him. And like I said in the previous recording, the Sabbath needs to be every day. Every day of our life is the Sabbath. It is focusing on God and what he has for you every single day and what you can do to bring glory to him. And then we also have to remember, we go on to the next chapter, is that when we have the sin in our life, it separates us from God. And it's not because God has left us. It's because we have left God. And it says in here that he hides his face from you when you're in the sin. And what I think about with that is, when somebody's doing something bad or wrong or whatever, and you just can't watch, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even bear to watch what they're doing. That's what I think of with God. It's like when you're living in such a sinful life, he's like, oh, I can't watch. You're destroying yourself. I can't even bear to see what you're doing. That's what I think about. And when people sin, they're doing wrong. They're hurting other people. They're lying. They're doing evil, and then they try to, then it talks about going before the law, and they lie and they make empty promises. People that go before the judge and they're like, I will never do this again. Cut me some slack. They're just lying. You can really tell when people are truly ready to surrender their life to the Lord and those who are just making false promises. You really can. And so they do wrong. They hurt people. Their roads are filled with desolation and destruction. There's no peace in their life, and their road is crooked. People who deny God, they just live in darkness. They walk in gloom with no direction. They fight. They have no hope. They deny the Lord. They don't allow God in to speak to their life. They speak against God. They revolt. They lie. It's just not a life that is full of joy and peace and goodness and prosperity. It's just a life of gloom and doom. And God is saying here that I see what's happening to my people, and I want to do something about it. I want to save them. I want to help them. And so this is what's great, because then God, this is when he's like, I'm going to send someone to intercede, I'm going to send someone to save them from themselves. And so then it talks about, and it's saying Jesus, it's like, there's no one to intercede. So it says his own arm brought him salvation. Well, that arm is Jesus. Salvation is Jesus. And it says, and his righteousness upheld him. He put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on his head. He put on his garments of vengeance for clothing and wrapped himself in zeal as a cloak. Well, this is Jesus. Jesus did this. He put on this armor, and then he gives this armor to us. When we get saved, he's like, put on this armor, put on my armor, put on what I put on. You put it on, you put it on in your everyday walk so that you can walk in uprightness and knowing that, You have all that you need to defeat the enemy, to defeat the world, to defeat those who come against you. Put on his armor so that you can fully walk in who you are called to be. Because he has come to make the wrong things right. He is our Redeemer. So turn from your transgressions. And Jesus' blood is like a flood of righteousness. It washes away the sins of those who believe in him. So believe in him today and allow him to wash you clean. And God will put his spirit in you. He will put his spirit in your mouth so that you speak of what God wants the people to hear, others to hear. And it will never depart from you, and nor from your offspring for generations and generations to come forever. And that just gives me such hope, because I have raised my children to believe in God, and I did everything that I could to show them who God was and who God is, and to be in their life. And my hope and my prayer is that this word is true, and that it will never leave my children, and that even when they stray, that God is still with them and in them, and his spirit is still in them, and that even when they stray, it will call them back. It will call them back to him. Thank you for listening to Everyday Lessons in the Bible. I hope you have a blessed day. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.